Awake to my voice.
Hi, I'm Adam, a lead artist with 20 years experience in the field. Welcome to Zspheres, the second tutorial of a 12-part series in the creation of the funness and the lovely concept by Pauline Vob. Alright, so to begin, I drag out a Zbrush Zsphere into the document from the tools menu and activate its symmetry. So I can, for example, I can draw out a leg, it'll be the same on the other side. So it makes it, you're doing half a job and it's symmetrical, which is like how animals are. After that, as you can see on the bottom right, I'm organizing the pure reference board for all of the modeling process going forward of all the videos. I have the pure reference board there, so you can see how I interact with it and see what reference I use for each time and how I move the reference around and add more reference and just have a small bit on screen at a time that suits what I'm sculpting, so I can just leave it on the next monitor and then start building or sculpting away or refining. Zbrush spheres, they're like a, for want of a better word, I guess an armature, like a underlying muscle for the body, basically, which you sculpt on later to add more definition. So it's almost like saying, if you've got blue tack or clay, you know, like when you're a kid with blue tack or something, or clay, it's the rough shape, you know, before you refine it. So here, I've dragged out all the main body proportions already, all the main torso. You can see the head, you can see the top of the Centaur, you can see the deer basic body without legs currently. I'm just gauging where the arms should be, looking at the female reference and thinking, should it be there or should it be there? So I've opted at a more female human anatomy for the arms as well, for proportion, which obviously is going to work a lot better. To go through the important things here is to get it all in the document first. What I mean is, don't mess around worrying about what you're positioning, because when you're drawing it out, deal with that later. Just get it down on the page. A bit like writing, a bit like drawing. Normally, get it out, let it start flowing, and you can start adjusting these things later on, like I'm doing here. As you can see, the body is a bit too long. Just some small things. So get it on the page first and work on it. So it just saves time. This whole sculpt took about 30 minutes. You know, just this part of it. And to get a basic proportion model, you know, ready for sculpting in 30 minutes is pretty darn good, to be honest with you, as a basic, you know, base shape. Okay, so to go quickly through how Zspheres work, using the move and scale tool mainly, which is the W or E key on the keyboard, or using it from the top tool menu. And you can drag and move around using your mouse. As you saw a second ago, there was a transparent error. And that is simply when the mesh, if you converted it into a mesh later, it's basically, Zbrush is telling you at that point there's an error. So you need to make sure it works. You've got to drag it out a little bit more. Okay, now it works. It would have been, it's too close. It wasn't working correctly. So just letting you know, if you change it now, it wouldn't work, basically. So you just need to move it out a little bit. Right, it's going to work now if you change it to adaptive skin, you know, to a mesh, because you can see the balls again, basically. Okay, so here I'm just doing the final refinements. As you can see, I've got the legs in proportion to how a deer would be, and looking at the foreness as well. And I've got, you know, it's important to start, make the big things first, like the torso, then the arms and the legs, then the fingers. So start from big to small, you know. I've got a very good method with the fingers, and I find it's the best method in creating hands. Some people like to, you know, cut out a hand and put it on another model, things like that. I don't like that kind of method. I think this method is the best one for myself, where you do a Z-sphere model of the hands as well, and keep that fingers a little bit separate, and that way, if you accidentally or if you choose to dynamesh later on, it's not really it's not going to get the fingers stuck together too much, basically. So there's that. As you can see here, I'm beginning to work on the positioning of the fingers. The aim for that is to keep them in a relaxed state, so it's easier to sculpt on. It's the same with Some people like to use the T-pose. I don't use a T-pose. I prefer to use an inverted Y. And that way it's a slightly relaxed state. So you can work on the shoulders, things like that, and the underarms. In a, for want of a better word, a more relaxed and easy, as repeating myself, but a more relaxed and easy to sculpt way, basically. That's the best way I can say about it. And I'm doing the same thing with the fingers here, keeping it in a really relaxed state. So when I'm sculpting, I get all the forms in there, and there's not really much issue for how. I mean, if you had it really like tense, it's just gonna look very strange, especially if you're making an in-game model, something like that. It's always best to have it in a neutral pose, like a relaxed neutral pose when you're doing the sculpting. Okay, so I've got all the main elements down now, even the fingers. I'm looking around the body all the time, you know, checking out each part, deciding which parts work, which parts don't work. You know, as you can see, I'm moving it a bit close together, looking at the reference, thinking, yeah, it works, but if it needs to be a little bit more there, you know, just using, basically eyeballing everything. It's not going to be correct proportion even now. I think the torso, basically the female section of the model, is a little bit, the human section is a little bit too long. But I've opted to say, but it's okay for now, and I can scale it when it's an actual mesh later on. I'm manipulate it even more then. Right now, I'm just happy to say I've got that armature ready to work on. So as I said, it's at this stage, I'm not really that worried about, you know, if it's not perfect. Basically, I can refine it more later. So checking around the model, I'm just adjusting the inverted Y to be, so basically the arms aren't touching the rib cage, because if there's it's like a Dynamesh issue. I want to be able to reach those areas. I don't want to get stuck together. And finally, I'm just adding a little bit more detail to the tail, just you know, an inner and an outer, basically, which works quite good there. So it'd just be the whole mesh has got enough loops in it, and enough scale on it, things like that, for the form. And that's it. I'm scrolling around it. That's it. It's ready.